Watching Khushbu. Hi. So, I said literary criticism. Okay, I'm ready. So, welcome everybody to this session. I thought you're not coming, Meena. Oh, I didn't see. Okay. So, we will start with literary theory. Maybe for a few minutes I will talk. I don't want to talk about every theory like I did the other day for 1 hour. As we go on, we will discuss the theories in depth. But just by way of introduction, in case somebody is new, uh, literary theory emerged in the 1950s after the Second World War, right? And this was an offshoot of the Second World War itself. All the counterculture movements and the resistance movements of the post-war period. Literary theory emerged as a reaction against humanism and mainstream perceptions of literature, of culture and life. Literary theory came into being because capitalism had already shown its undersides, and many figures in literature, like the Beat Generation, to name one, had actually reacted very severely against the mainstream cultures and its oppressive values. There was a lot of rebellion against patriarchy, against colonialism. This was the time when countries like India also got independence. So there was a massive upheaval of culture in the West at this time. And literary theory is a philosophical explanation for this. Literary theory seeks to understand how to make sense of this massive upheaval. Right. Literary theory did not emerge one fine morning. It is deeply rooted in the avant-garde movements and all the ideas and experiments that happened in the early 20th century, including that of Ferdinand de Saussure. The most poignant theory of them all must have been post-structuralism. Post-structuralism was provided the rationale for the postmodern society, and post-structuralism showed that reality is provisional and multiple and constructed. It gave a good a foundational thought to it, formed the foundation of the post-war world of which people could not make sense of. So literary theory was necessary at that time. But eventually, like all grand pronouncements, like all grand theories and discourses, literary theory also became like a weapon or an instrument to a tool to capitalism and the mainstream ideologies. So there has also been a debate on where there has been the end of theory, where theory is still necessary, and so on and so forth also. Within the umbrella of post-structuralism, all approaches flourished. There is a post-structuralist Marxism, a post-structuralist psychoanalysis, a post-structuralist feminism, post-structuralist post-colonialism. Now, literary theory goes hand in hand with culture studies because they emerged at the same time. Culture studies also came at about the same time in the 1960s, even though in India and many of these, not the central countries when it comes to education, we have all heard about culture studies only towards the end of the 20th century. And today only we talk about culture studies in syllabi and examinations, but it was always there from the 1960s. And as you know, it was a term coined in 1964 by Richard Hogarth, the founder of CCCS. Anyway, it looks like today culture studies has replaced literary theory to a great extent. But in our presentation, I have put literary theory and culture studies together because actually there is no way to separate the two. It is cultural studies is also rooted in literary theory. Right. So culture studies, the difference is that culture studies is more political. It gives more agency to marginal voices or the powerless people of the margins. Culture studies is more diverse and more, catering to individual realities rather than monolithic discourses. Well, that is the danger of cultural studies because cultural studies is growing every minute, every moment, you can say. Even as I speak, a few new approaches might have started. So culture studies is, I would say, not me, every recent critic is saying the same. The danger is that it is burgeoning so much. The proliferation of culture studies has to be checked in some way because it's getting a lot confusing. Every theorist is coming up with new terms and new approaches. And is it really necessary to theorize life so intricately, so much? That is the issue that is being raised today. But forget all this. How does it connect with us? How does it impact on our lives? All these ideas and approaches that have come into being. Cultural studies and literary theory liberated us. It democratized learning and life and society in so many innumerable ways. We are all able to speak and write and make ourselves heard. We are able to learn. We are able to get to do jobs and make our choices. To cut short the long story, we are able to make our choices because of that theoretical turn in intellectual inquiry, because of the coming of literary theory, to say in simple terms, because literary theory legitimized the individual perceptions, the diversities of human life. Before that, there was the need to conform, there was the need to accede to a center, to submit to a center. But culture studies and literary theory made every perspective worthwhile and possible, legitimate. So in that way, it is so beautiful. But we have to take everything with a pinch of salt. Even great theories, like Bacon said, can be erroneous. What did Bacon say? The idol of the theater. The idol of the theater means, what are the four idols? Idol of the cave, idol of the tribe, idol of the marketplace, and idol of the theater. The idol of the theater means even knowledge systems can go wrong, ideologies can go wrong, right? So we have to take it with a pinch of salt. Literary theory is not panacea. It is not, the ultimate solution to everything, because critics are there. People have criticized literary theory also. Now, as we speak today, in UGC Net, December 2024 questions, if you check out, you'll understand. And in syllabi of central universities, etc., if you check out, you'll understand. Literary theory is not literary theory. Literary theory has to do everything with sociology, economics. Of course, it always had to do with philosophy, but now sociology, economics, political science, geography, oh no, demography, everything in humanities has come into literary theory. So, by definition, all literature students, literary theory students should try their hands at UPSC exam or something, because it's so much of humanities. It is so much of everything, literary theory these days. It is not just about literature at all. Right. So there is a lot to literary theory. Thank you, everyone. Rakshitsa is wishing me happy Mother's Day. I'm not your mother, but still, thank you. Okay, so I don't want to wax eloquent on this now. Let me go on to please come in. Let me go on to the presentation. അങ്ങനെ ചെയ്യാറുണ്ടോ എനിക്ക് അറിയില്ല. അല്ല അത് മെയിൻ കോഴ്സിലെയാണ്. വേണമെങ്കിൽ ഇങ്ങനത്തെ ദിവസം അവിടെ എഴുതി വെക്കാം. Our classes this way. വെക്കാമെങ്കിൽ വെച്ചോ. പക്ഷെ എങ്ങനെ വെക്കും? ഉണ്ടാവും, എനിക്കറിയില്ല. അത് കൈകൊണ്ട് എഴുതിയാലും ആ അങ്ങനെ ആരും വരാറില്ല പതിവ് ഇത്. വരാറില്ല. വന്നാലോ എനിക്ക് ചോദിച്ച സ്ഥിതിക്ക് എനിക്ക് വെച്ച വേണമെങ്കിൽ. Okay, some people just came in, so okay. Please settle down. Today we have PYQ goes on literary theory. I just gave an introduction to literary theory and I'm now going to go into the PYQs. All right, here is the first question. We are first doing December 2024. December 2024 was quite difficult. There were lots of questions that were quite challenging, but don't worry, maybe because of that, this time it will be easier because they keep shifting the focus. People think, oh, literary theory is important. Let me study literary theory. And then focus will be on something else. So don't worry. Let me show you the first question. Easy. There is nothing outside the text. Is a statement made by, is it Victor Shklovsky, Jacques Derrida, Roland Barthes, or Ferdinand de Saussure? It is Jacques Derrida who talked about the text, and he said the text is boundaryless. There is nothing outside the text. He said that means the text has no boundaries. That means the text, maybe there is nothing inside the text either. That means everything is textual. There is nothing outside the text can mean that everything is textual. What do you mean by textual? Textuality means constructedness. Constructed. Everything is a construct. Everything is constructed. That is the meaning of everything is textual. I have a halo. No, anyway, you can't see me properly. So, this is a very basic premise of structuralism that there are, and post-structuralism, that is, that there are no boundaries to the text. Right? Derrida is against binary oppositions and boundaries. He believed that there is a difference happening in the text. Difference means a postponement of meaning. Right? Difference is a postponement of meaning. Any discourse characterized by difference is called what? Any discourse characterized by difference is called what? Écriture. Any system of writing where there are no fixities, where everything is in a provisional state, that is called écriture. Écriture is the larger kind of writing which contains logos. When I speak, it is limited. It is not limitless. When I speak, it is limited. When you write what I'm saying, it is limited. Right? My speech and your writing on paper together is called logos. And that logos is contained within the realm of écriture, which is a limitless kind of writing. It can be like writing on airwaves, writing on your memory, any other kind of writing which is not the writing of any verbal language. It is not the writing of English or Hindi or Malayalam or anything. It is another kind of writing. And it's happening all the time. The écriture that happens just before you speak is called archi-écriture. The écriture that happens just before you speak is called archi-écriture. Right? And when I speak and when you write, Derrida says writing becomes the supplement of speech. Writing is the supplement of speech. We need writing because there is an originary lack in speech. We need writing because there is an originary lack in speech. Are you getting me? Writing and speech exist together as an example of invagination. Derrida talks about a kind of language where everything is a signifier. Even the signifieds become signifiers. In post-structuralism, there are only signifiers. What did Victor Shklovsky write? Art as technique. It is the essay that came in 1917. That is where he talked about defamiliarization. What did Roland Barthes write? All his works below. Mythologies. Death of an author. S bar Z. From work to text, pleasures of the text. Writing degree 0. Camera lucida. I already said it. Camera lucida. Image, music, text. Good. Read only and write only texts are concepts discussed in pleasures of the text. Okay. Where does he analyze Balzac's story, Saracen? S. Barzel. Which is the book written by Ferdinand de Saussure? He didn't write it. It is a consolidation of his works. It is Course in General Linguistics. Okay. Now, which are the works of Derrida? Of grammatology, writing and different speech and phenomena. All three came in the year 1967. Yeah, one of the last works of Derrida is The Animal That Therefore I Am. Derrida wrote about mourning. Derrida wrote about friendship, politics of friendship. Which is the work that Derrida wrote about Marxism? Spectres of Marx. Which is the work that Derrida wrote about Plato's concept of speech and writing? The postcard, correct. The postcard. Did Derrida write about prayer? Yes. He wrote about prayer also. Please look up the works of Derrida before the exam. If they ask, you should definitely know it. Right? Okay. Where did he present structure, sign, and play in the discourse of the human sciences? At Johns Hopkins University. At Johns Hopkins University. All right. They might ask you on which day, 21st October or something, I'm not very sure. More details of that they might ask. 21st October, isn't it? Yes. The language of and the sciences of man. What is the conference? Paul Deman, Lacan, everybody attended. What is the conference where he presented structure, sign, and play in the discourse of the human sciences? I know. Language of? I don't remember. Language of? Something, and the sciences of man. Language of criticism. Correct. Language of criticism and the sciences of man. Right. Who conducted this conference? Richard Maxey. Please look up. You should know everything about that pioneering work. If they ask something little here and there changed, you should be able to answer. Okay. Now, arrange the following in chronological order of their publication. Nation and narration. At least now we should study, okay? The Dialogic Imagination was written very early, but it was published in the 1980s. Was Nation and Narration published in 1980s or 90s? From now on, you should remember, study this chronology of this Homi Bhabha, literary theory. Major works, that's right, 1990. Then Anthropology and the Colonial Encounter, Discourse on Colonialism, Orientalism. At least one or two you know. Orientalism for E first, then B, then A it is. EBA. It has to be one. Option A. Option 1. And that is the answer. They are just trying to confuse you when they give you names that you don't know. You should know Nation and Narration, Dialogic Imagination, and Orientalism. At least you should know Nation and Narration and Orientalism. Okay? So please take time out and study it. Now, I will explain to you these. Nation and Narration is by Homi Bhabha. It is a very famous work by Homi Bhabha. What are the other works by Homi Bhabha? Another major work by Homi Bhabha. Is it 75, Dialogic Imagination? I thought it is 80s. But Dialogic Imagination, you can't say clearly because it was written long ago and it had many forms until it was first really published. No, it was, the translation is 1982. Location of Culture. Oh, in original, it is 1975, correct. Translation is 1982. I will write it out here. Sorry. In my mind, it is 1982. Okay. 1975. But the problem is we don't know what they are asking. Whether it is translation or this. Okay. Can you see my screen? No, right? Yeah. Okay. Anthropology and Colonial Encounter. You don't have to know. Don't study. I just told you it is by Talal Asad. Because in some major universities, his essay and all are prescribed, I saw. But usually they don't prescribe. You don't have to know. This is only a confusing option. Discourse on colonialism, you should know. Because Amy Césaire is important. They will ask Amy Césaire. Okay, so remember Amy Césaire. Please don't raise your hand. I will only talk to you during the break. Okay, discourse on colonialism is important. So let us study these authors more. Homi Bhabha, all of you might know, but I'm just revising again. Homi Bhabha's concept are hybridity. Well, are you hybrid people? Yes, very much. We are all hybrid. Hybridity emerges in the spaces between cultures because we have our own regional culture, our own national culture. We all follow a little bit of American culture because we eat Lays, we eat popcorn, we watch American movies. We all have a little bit of British culture because we have been ruled by them. We study British literature. We all have maybe Japanese, Korean, you watch Korean pop, shows, for example, K-pop, for example, you listen to, you watch Korean movies, etc. So there is a little bit of so many cultures in all of us in the post-war world. We are all inevitably hybrid. Hybridity emerges in the spaces between cultures where cultural mixing and encounter happens. Cultural mixing and encounter happens. So, hybridity is a dialectical space. Hybridity is a dialectical space of conflict. Right. Now, what is mimicry? Homi Bhabha's concept, which refers to the complex and ambivalent relationship between the colonizer and colonized. For example, many of you are wearing jeans and t-shirts. That is a mimicry of the westernized, Western person, Western man or woman. Because it is not originally ethnically our clothes or clothing. So we are imitating their language, we are imitating their religion, we are imitating their culture, we are imitating their, clothing and lifestyle. So that imitation shows that we covet them. We want to be like them. They are superior. But at the same time, when we imitate them, their superiority is also getting diminished. Their superiority is also getting diminished. For example, I am teaching English literature to UGC NET aspirants and PSC assistant professorship aspirants. Suppose I am not teaching my methodology to anybody. There is nobody who teaches like me. I am supreme because I'm the only one. But if everybody else is teaching like me, everybody is copying me, isn't my power diminished? Because then why would you come to me? There are so many other equal replicas. You understand? So the colonized subject mimics the dominant culture, but this is characterized by ambivalence. Ambivalence means it is both ways. It is not clearly this or that. Ambivalent because it reinforces and subverts the dominant culture as well. When women began to wear men's clothing, women actually subverted male dominance. Because we are wearing men's clothing, we can do things that men do. These days, a lot of women are driving motorbikes, riding motorbikes, which is not possible if you wear any woman's clothing, even a salwar kameez, because it might tear. Right? So, it enables us, mimicry enables us, thereby diminishes their power. It empowers us, thereby diminishes their power. And also, there is one more aspect to mimicry. The colonizer requires us to do the mimicry. That is why Macaulay wanted us to speak English. The colonizer, in order to deal with us, Robinson Crusoe had to teach Friday English and Christianity also. Right? So, in order to deal with the colonized subject, the colonizer requires the colonized person to imitate the colonizer. So, the colonized becomes almost the same, but not quite. That is a famous phrase. Almost the same, but not quite. Got it? Are there two ACs? Should we reduce one? Now, difference. It is a spelling mistake. That is not the way Homi Bhabha spelled it or anything. Difference. That is an ordinary word. We all know what is difference. But Homi Bhabha used it as a theoretical term. Cultural difference as against cultural plurality or cultural something else. He distinguished it from cultural differences is term. Diversity, I think. Cultural differences against cultural diversity is there in our net, material. But the other term is not important because cultural difference is Homi Bhabha's term. Cultural difference is where the otherness is emphasized, where that conflict is happening. Okay, we have to connect. The colonized person and the colonized have to encounter each other, and the difference should be enunciated. That is the meaning of cultural difference. You can't just hide your differences and all be one. Diversity means everybody is there, different, but their differences are not so visible. Unity and diversity will be there, but cultural difference means show your difference. Emphasize the colonized otherness to justify dominance. Okay, it can be both ways. Colonizer is accentuating the difference. You are so black, you are so dirty, you don't know anything. Colonizer can say, accentuating or emphasizing the difference. Colonized people say, we are different. We are not like you. We can also say. Clear? Ambivalence is the complex, contradictory nature of colonial relationships. Colonial relationships are not smooth, they are contradictory. It causes tension because of ambivalence. Ambivalence challenges the binary oppositions. Smoothly, we are white and black, or good and evil, or east and west. No, it is ambivalent because there are elements of the black and white, elements of the white and black. There are points where they are clashing and fighting. Where exactly do you draw the line is not clear. That is ambivalent, right? Third space. Third space is where binaries are disrupted. Again, similar. All these are similar ideas. Because Homi Bhabha himself was a Parsi and he is writing from his own auto-ethnographic details. Right. And third space is where there is no binary opposition because they are all getting mixed up. Colonizer and colonized, powerful and powerless, they are getting mixed up. It is not clear. There is ambivalence. Third space is where binaries are disrupted and hybridity is facilitated. It can be in education, the backbench in the classroom, where it is still inside the classroom, but it is the backbench. They are more powerful. The margins power and the center's power are coming together in the backbench in educational scenario. Got it? Homi Bhabha's third space has a lot of implication in education, right? When we do extracurricular activities, that is third space in education. Because students are getting more freedom. There is a possibility that they will go beyond the limits, right? Now, third space can also be hybrid languages or cultures, fusion cuisine, diasporic identities. All these are hybrid as well as examples of third space where Colonizer's power is there, colonized power is also there. For example, I told you I had a Chinese friend. And one day I said, every day she ran a restaurant. Every day I was eating at their restaurant and getting inspired by the taste of original Chinese food. I made some changes to my usual Indian Chinese food and I made some pasta or something. I don't remember what. And I took it to her. This is my Chinese food. And she said, you should reduce something more, You shouldn't put this too much. You should add something more. What is this you have put? There is something that I don't know here. And I didn't say that then, but today I can say, forget it. That is third space. Where that culture is there because I'm making Chinese food. But my culture is contesting. And it is not very smooth. There will be conflicts. You call this Chinese food? Chinese will ask. Indians will ask, you call this Indian food? What have you made? Nobody will like it because it is third space. Because ambivalent. It is neither Indian nor Chinese, where both are clashing. Clear? Backbench is neither outside nor classroom. Got it? Right. Now there is a term that I didn't know. I learned it today and I thought I'll explain to you because I was reading about nation and narration. It is a very difficult, so Homi Baba's hallmark is the difficulty with which he speaks. Iterative time or iterative time. Iterative American, iterative English, British. Iterative time refers to the concept of time as a dynamic process of repetition and difference. Time as a dynamic process of repetition and difference. For example, your great-grandparents celebrated. Let me take the example of Kerala. My great-grandparents celebrated Onam in a particular way. My parents or my grandparents copied it and changed a little bit to suit their conveniences. My parents changed it completely. They began to do whatever they wanted. And I am not even celebrating Onam. You understand the difference? It is repetition. Onam is being repeated. For me, Onam means sleeping and watching TV and some web series or something. For my parents, Onam means buying packaged foods and eating it. For my grandparents, Onam means cooking food and eating in their house. For my great-grandparents, Onam means eating with the community. It is repetition, but it is also different. So Onam is an example of iterative time, where in time, things are repeated, but differently. When you talk about diasporic cultures, for example, this is very important. Time is not a linear, smooth progression. It changes, right? Nation, iterative concept can be applied, time concept can be applied to the nation. The development of the nation, think of Republic Day celebrations. You can take it as a text. I'm just giving you an idea for a research topic. If you can, it's not easy. So if you can get hold of the documents, how are the patterns changing? At what point they are changing? How is it a repetition, but at the same time, how is it different? Now, Amy Césaire is from Martinique. Which other writer do you know from Martinique? Frantz Fanon. Martinican poet, politician, and intellectual. He served as the mayor of Martinique's capital, and some French name it is, I don't know. And he was a deputy to the French National Assembly. Amy Césaire is very famously associated with negritude. All of you might know what is negritude. It was a movement of, I will give you this PDF. What are you all writing? If you want, you write. Because there is so much, a whole book is there. Now, for everybody who is attending, I'll give PDF. इसलिए मैं पैदा हुई थी so that I can make PDF for you. I said that is why I was born. So that I'll be PDF vending machine. Okay, listen. Negritude is the movement of Francophone intellectuals, African intellectuals who spoke French. Francophone intellectuals and writers, literary and intellectual people who celebrated African culture. They lived in France and Africa. And who are the founders of the Negritude movement? Aimé Césaire, Leopold Sédar Senghor, and Leon Damas. Leon Damas. Leon Damas. Aimé Césaire wrote Une Tempête, which is based on Tempest, which is a play showing the story of Tempest in Zulu culture. No, Zulu, I think, yeah. Not Zulu, some other culture, African culture. Une Tempête, based on The Tempest. Aimé Césaire's book-length poem is his masterpiece. I did not know that. Today I learned for you, with you. Notebook of a Return to the Native Land. That is his famous poem. Notebook of a Return to the Native Land. Remember one thing, everybody. When they ask questions in one exam, the next exam, they will ask related authors or related questions. So something from here you will get in net. And even in your PSC exams, they will surely follow net question paper to some extent because you are people who have passed net. So you should know at least that, they will think. Definitely. So, notebook of a return to the native lands. Imagine he was a Negritude writer and he lived in France and he is returning and he is writing in a notebook. Okay. Discourse on colonialism is what they have asked. In the question paper here, see, Discourse on Colonialism, 1950. Discourse on Colonialism is a critical essay that condemns colonialism's dehumanizing effects and advocates decolonization. Those who have doubts or anything to say, will you please write down and wait? I will talk to you during the break. But because otherwise, because it's literary theory, everybody will speak and we won't get very far. I have lots of things to discuss and it will be invaluable to you as a recording. So, Discourse on Colonialism by Aimé Césaire is a critical essay that condemns colonialism's dehumanizing effects. Colonialism dehumanizes you. You are not even treated like a human being and advocates decolonization. Okay, Aimé Césaire. Now, identify the correct options from the following statements. This is from Eco-Criticism. Some of you have eco-criticism to study. I have not taught it till now, I'll do. Eco-criticism has often explained the human and non-human webs of interrelation. Is it true? Human and non-human webs of interrelation. Is it true? In eco-criticism, human accountability to the environment is part of the text's ethical Orientalism. They want your head to go like this, I think. In eco-criticism, your head is starting from here. In eco-criticism, human accountability to the environment. Human beings have an accountability to the environment, okay? Is part of the text's ethical Orientalism. What do you think? Eco-criticism foregrounds the notion of an interplay between environment and the body. Interplay between environment and the body. Keep it, I won't say anything. There is only one wave of eco-criticism is obviously false. These days, there is no one wave anywhere. Maybe in the ocean there is, but everywhere else, there are 1,000 waves. Eco-criticism has not tackled the issue of gender. But you said that B is wrong. We have no option in the sense we have to choose B. Don't rack your brains to understand. It is only some AI who can understand option B. Okay. Now, eco-criticism, let us talk about. We will study straightforward things, okay? Eco-criticism, you might all know, was coined by William Ruckert. They can ask four terms and say, arrange this chronologically according to the time it was coined. 78 is William Ruckert's coinage of eco-criticism. He wrote about it in the essay, Literature and Ecology, an Experiment in Eco-Criticism. Very famous essay. Literature and Ecology, an Experiment in Eco-Criticism. Okay, the Eco-Criticism Reader, Landmarks in Literary Ecology. Very famous book edited by Cheryl Glotfelty and Harold Frum. That also you might know. Eco-Criticism Reader, Cheryl Glotfelty and Harold Frum. It's a collection of essays that establish eco-criticism as a literary theory, obviously. 1996. Eco-criticism has so many branches. One is green studies. There is something called the Green Studies Reader. There are many books I have not mentioned here. Green Studies Reader. I will write the Environmental Imagination. I'm just checking the year. 1995. Okay, that also I will write here. Green Studies Reader, From Romanticism to Eco-Criticism, is by Lawrence Coupe. There he talks about Romanticism also. The Environmental Imagination is another important book. Suddenly I remembered. So many books are there. 1995. Do you know who wrote it? Lawrence Buell. Lawrence Buell. The Song of the Earth by Jonathan Bates. Examines poetry again. Eco poetry also he wrote. Romantic ecology, eco poetry, how the classics made Shakespeare. Jonathan Bate is also a Shakespeare scholar. You should understand that such topics, such authors and all, they may not ask. But similar things they ask. And those questions, even if you don't answer, you will still pass. Only thing you should answer every other question. So these are all part of general knowledge. For that reason, relax and study. Lawrence Buell wrote Environmental Imagination. The Song of the Earth is by Jonathan Bate. He wrote Romantic Ecology, Eco Poetry, How the Classics Made Shakespeare. These are very famous. And these others last I've given, I don't know them. But I saw that they are important. They have written works. So I myself don't know them. If you get time, check it out. Just play something with it, the names, so that you'll remember. Environment, Eco-Criticism, Meeker, Morton, Murphy, Soper. Meeker, Morton, Murphy, Soper. Eco-Criticism, Meeker, Morton, Murphy, Soper. Meeker, Morton, Murphy, Soper. Maintain the thala, rhythm, Meeker, Morton, Murphy, Soper. Like that, if you play with it, you won't forget. Otherwise, if you think, oh, I don't know, Meeker, Morton, don't study like that, please. Okay, so who coined the term eco-criticism? Who coined the term eco-criticism? William Ruckert. William Ruckert. Who wrote Silent Spring? Rachel Carson. Which year? That they've asked another exam. 60s, 70s, 80s. Which year? 60s. Rachel Carson. Which is the other major work by Rachel Carson about blue humanities? You don't know. I will tell you when we come to blue humanities. Lawrence Buell. Then Cheryl Glotfelty, Harold Frum. Will you remember? Okay, next question. Arrange the following in terms of year of publication. Maybe it is first shift and second shift. Orientalism, 1970. We already said it, didn't we? 78. Black Skin, White Mask, 1950. What? Anyway, I will show you the options. Answer. B, D, A, C, E. B, Black Skin, White Mask. D, because Black Skin, White Mask came before Wretched of the Earth, 1952. Wretched of the Earth is 1961. Orientalism, 1978. Both these are 1980s and 90s. Right. So, Orientalism is Edward Said. I don't want to talk about it. Black Skin, White Mask, 1952 is about the psychology of colonization. Remember, Frantz Fanon is a Martinique psychiatrist. A critical analysis of the psychological and social effects of colonialism and racism. He talks about why black men fall in love with white women, how black men take revenge on white men, etc., etc. How colonialism affects the mind. Colonialism imposes a white mask, that is the meaning. White mask it imposes on black individuals, forcing them to adopt European values, language. There is a cultural difference. It's a space where there is the meeting of two cultures, where blacks and whites are living together. This leads to a sense of alienation, self-hatred. What is the related term coined by W.E.B. Du Bois? Where black people look at themselves from white eyes, through white eyes, double consciousness. W.E.B. Du Bois talked about double consciousness. Okay, masks of conquest. Literary study and British rule in India. That is the subtitle. It is by Gauri Vishwanathan. Isn't it? By Gauri Vishwanathan. Masks of Conquest explores. Have you forgotten Gauri Vishwanathan? You should not forget her. I will keep like this in case I want to edit. So Masks of Conquest explores the ideological motivations behind the introduction of English literature education in India. Why was English literature education introduced in India? Because they wanted to exert power over us. That is the reason. English literature was prescribed in government schools to instill moral values, initially with Christian undertones, and it was also a political tool. That is the argument mainly in Masks of Conquest. Right. Now, the Wretched of the Earth argues that decolonization is inherently violent. The Wretched of the Earth famously argues that decolonization is always a violent phenomenon. That is the phrase, that is the term he uses. Who wrote the introduction to Wretched of the Earth and supported this idea? Jean-Paul Sartre. Jean-Paul Sartre famously wrote the introduction to Wretched of the Earth. Frantz Fanon also critiques the national bourgeoisie. That means the national middle class. He's saying that the African middle class is not as powerful as the European middle class. The European middle class brought the revolution, the industrial revolution, and the African middle class is not that powerful. They need to be more organized. Okay. I wanted to look at the titles of the chapters in these major books. Look at the condensed page and look at the chapter titles. From there itself, you will get answers. Okay, who of the following wrote about, critiqued the national bourgeoisie? If they ask like that, because that is the chapter title. Can the Subaltern Speak? Who is the author? Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak. It is an essay that she wrote. She says that the most marginalized people in the society, or the subalterns, have no platform to express their concerns. They have no voice. And when the theorists keep speaking about the subaltern will never find their voice. Are you feeling tired? Okay, I have put another slide explaining Can the Subaltern Speak? Gayatri Spivak critiques British colonial discourse that portrayed the abolition of sati. She's talking about sati there. Sati is there in the subtitle itself. And she's talking about the abolition of sati and how the British, presented it as a very benevolent act that they did for Indians. Same thing is there with the parda. When you abolish parda or sati, you think that you are doing a very great benevolent act for the women. But many times the women use it as a powerful weapon. It is very ambivalent. It is not as simple as you think. That is the meaning. Clear? So she argues that the narrative that the British abolished sati and rescued Indian women from death, it erased the voices and agency of the women involved. Why? Either Indian men will speak for women or the British will speak for Indian women. Why don't you shut up and let the women speak for themselves? Got it. So it is erasing the women's voices and agencies, reducing to mere victims and objects. And how is she explaining this with the story of Bhubaneswari Bhaduri? She is talking about Bhubaneswari Bhaduri, who is some relative of Spivak herself in that essay, who hanged herself in 1926 for a political reason. Bhubaneswari Bhaduri killed herself as a political act. But then it was misinterpreted by the family and others. Bhubaneswari Bhaduri killed herself when she was menstruating deliberately, so that she was a widow. And she did not want anybody to think that she got pregnant, and that is why she committed suicide. Spivak argues that Bhubaneswari's voice and agency were effaced even in death, highlighting the impossibility of subaltern women's speech being heard or understood. Thus, Spivak examines how colonial powers and Western intellectuals represent the subaltern. They represent the subaltern without allowing them to speak for themselves. This representation deepens the subaltern silence and marginalization. So far clear? Okay. Online babies, everyone? Am I taking too long? Do you want me to go faster? Are you having a good time or not? Okay. Now, all right, thank you. Now, I'm talking about some other concepts here. Look at biopolitics. Biopolitics is the management and control of populations, managing biological organisms and people. That is biopolitics, particularly in relation to health, life, and death. Michel Foucault talked about it. Biopolitics is also related to Giorgio Agamben. Giorgio Agamben, who talked about Homo Caesar. Agamben, they have asked about Agamben recently a few times. Agamben's concept of Homo Caesar refers to a figure or a human being who have no value, who has no value. A human being who has no value. He uses the term bare life. That is also Agamben's term. A figure of bare life, stripped of political and social rights. You know, the people living in the streets, the poorest of the poor people, the slum dwellers, the people in mental asylums. In other words, Homo Caesar is a person whom the government or authorities can kill and it will not be a crime. Do you understand? Homo Caesar refers to a figure of bare life, stripped of political and social rights, and reduced to mere biological existence. Maybe people who are bedridden. Homo Caesar is a person who can be killed without being sacrificed, exemplifying the state of exception, where sovereign power exercises absolute control. Sovereign power has the right to do away with the Homo Caesar. Then there is precarity, another related term. Precarity means the condition of uncertainty, instability, and security. Homo Caesar lives in a condition of precarity. The Homo Caesar, or that figure of bare life, will have precarity. That means the life is precarious. Anytime he can be killed. Precarious, precariat. Guy Standing is the man who talked about precariat. G-U-Y-S-T-A-N-G-I-N-G. Precarity means the marginal, the most marginal. So my code is, imagine the guy standing in the margins. Guy Standing is the man who talked about precariat. Did you get it? Guy Standing. Precariat. So precariat refers to the condition of uncertainty, instability, and insecurity that affects individuals and groups due to neoliberal economic policies, political violence, social marginalization. It can be economic precarity. People who have absolutely no money. It can be precarious labor, people who are doing very dangerous labor. It can be precarious life due to health issues or many issues. The soldiers in the border, precariat. Judith Butler talked about precarity. She examines the intersection of vulnerability. That's another term that Judith Butler has talked about. She examines how vulnerability intersects with precarity and recognition, highlighting the importance of acknowledging the precariousness of human life. Okay? Some time ago, homosexuals even were precariat because parents could kill them or society could kill them. Everybody will say good. Some time ago, how many trans women were killed? How many? Right? How atrocious, isn't it? Those people don't even have the right to talk about rights. Implicitly, entire society will think, good that they died. Now, another concept is, another question. Identify the statements which are true for psychoanalytic criticism. The premises and procedures were established by Sigmund Freud. Yes or no? Freud posited that artists are like neurotic patients. There is a relationship between art and mind, but B is too much, isn't it? Freud posited that psychoanalysis can be used to account for many developments and practices in the history of civilization. Freud posited that psychoanalysis can be used to account for many developments and practices in the history of civilization. Do you agree? Why wouldn't you agree? A repressed wish does not become fantasy. Some question paper setter is using his fantasy. Freud proposed that literature and other arts manifest the repressed subconscious and unconscious drives of the artist. Answer is given there. Answer 4. A, C, and E. E is correct. Literature and other arts manifest the repressed subconscious and the unconscious drives of the artist. Clear? Now, I will talk to you in brief about Freudian psychoanalysis. Freud talked about the unconscious. Some of you are beginners, just listen to me. The unconscious. Freud believed that human being has an unconscious. Before Freud, nobody believed that. Before Freud, everybody thought what you see on the outside is the mind. But after Freud, people knew that there is something called unconscious. Freud believed that the unconscious desires, fears, and memories influence behavior and creativity. How we behave, whether we are creative or not, how we create, what we create, everything is based on the unconscious. The unconscious is the result of repression. Then Freud talked about a tripartite structure of the human mind. Id, ego, and superego. The id is the primitive desires, the total unconscious. Totally unconscious, but it is partly only, not totally, because sometimes it comes out as some Freudian slip. Right? And then ego is the conscious mind. When you look at me, you see my ego. Ego is mediating between id and superego. And superego incorporates moral principles. Superego incorporates moral principles. Superego is morality, conscience. Do you understand? Illiteracy? Sleepy? Third, little. If illiteracy, suppose she is never sleepy, I'm just using this as an example. Illiteracy becomes sleepy and goes like this. That is id. Id is working. Id is pulling you down. And then Let's say things, no, I shouldn't sleep. Let me drink some water. Somehow let me keep awake. That is super ego. And ego is, you sit, everybody has that trick. You sit as if you're paying attention and you nod your head and then you start looking at your book. And I know when you're looking at your book too much, something is wrong. That is ego. Got it? Now, repression. All the unacceptable thoughts and desires are pushed into the unconscious, influencing behavior and creativity. All the thoughts and desires that are unacceptable. Our ego knows we should not think like this. Kill that person. Kill Kalyani ma'am because she is making fun of me. Sometimes you might think. In your head, of course you will think. You can't help it. Ego thinks you are not thinking like that. It will think. When superego is there, ego will never know what it is thinking. You understand? It is like the naughty child. Superego is like the mother and ego is like the father. I didn't say it. It is well known. Right. So, unacceptable thoughts and desires are pushed into the unconscious, influencing your behavior and creativity. Even though ego is trying to manage superego and it and showing a very good face outside, like in Jane Eyre, Rochester and others are trying to make Jane feel like there is nothing wrong, everything is okay here. Occasionally, there is a hysterical laughter that is being heard. That is it coming out. Got it, Nisi? So, that is repression. Then, Oedipal complex. The child's desire for the opposite sex parent. Usually, the male child gets attached to the mother and rivalry to the same sex parent. This is not to be taken in adult terms. It is very subtle. When the child is still not able to speak and child does not know about himself, at that stage, the child will cling to the mother because the mother is the source of milk and comfort. For survival, the child will cling to the mother because when anybody else holds the child, he is not getting any milk. He knows that. So for all practical reasons, child has to remain with the mother. Right. So the child's desire for the mother and rivalry with the father. That Freud took to the extreme and said penis envy and all that. But this stage in the child's life shapes personality and behavior. Then there are defense mechanisms. There are coping strategies like denial, projection, sublimation that help individuals to manage stress and anxiety and the conflicts in the mind. These defense mechanisms are inadvertently we are doing it. So as to, for example, we can eat to manage stress. And then that itself will cause stress. It becomes a vicious circle. Right? It can also be parapraxis or Freudian slips. Parapraxis or Freudian slips. It's the saying, kill your teacher, kill your teacher, kill your teacher. You don't need her. She is so bad. Kill her, kill her, kill her. Superego is saying, no. That is so bad. Don't kill, don't kill. And then you're bringing this everyday water to the teacher and tack, the cup falls and breaks. You don't know why, how I fell, how the cup fell. I didn't mean it. I am so sorry. I don't know how it happens. We know. It is a defense mechanism.
Someone falls. Then at times we feel like laughing inside when they fall. So that is it. But we show concern, so that is super ego. So what will be ego in this then?
Everything cannot be divided into ego and superego. That is ego. Matlab, superego says help, help, help. But ego helps a little bit. And it takes care of yourself. It does not get involved too much. Maybe. Okay. Then dream analysis. Dreams reveal repressed thoughts and desires, offering insights into the unconscious. Dreams are the royal road to the unconscious, according to Freud. Freud talked about symbols, vaginal symbols, phallic symbols, sexual symbols. He talked all about libido and sexual terminology only he used mostly. All that is Freudian psychoanalysis. Feminists have criticized him a lot. And then we have Lacanian psychoanalysis, which is more acceptable to feminists. Lacan says we have three stages: the real, the imaginary, and the symbolic. The real is when you're born, you are real. You don't know anything about yourself. And then you enter the imaginary through the mirror stage. You enter the imaginary through the mirror stage. When you see the mirror, you think, oh, that child in the mirror is so unified and perfect. I want to be like that child. Little do you know that you are that child. You think your body is in bits and pieces, your life is in bits and pieces. You identify with the other in the mirror. That is the mirror stage. Formation of the self happens in the mirror stage through reflection by identifying with the other. When the child sees itself as a unified whole, but this image is illusory. And then after that, you enter the realm of language, the realm of social norms, the rules that shape human experience and subjectivity. All that is symbolic stage, the symbolic order. There is another binary opposition, symbolic versus semiotic. All the confusing things in your mind can also be called semiotic. Real is that which you can never understand or possess. It is lost when you enter mirror stage and imaginary stage. Imaginary stage is when you are starting your self-formulation. You are beginning to understand yourself. And symbolic is when you are describing yourself in language. Symbolic is totally in the realm of language. Clear? Then Lacan talked about desire a lot. Desire is a central thing in Lacan. Desire is the desire of the other, Lacan said. The inherent lack or void in human experience drives desire, which can never be fully satisfied. Desire is driven by the desire for the other, and it can never be fully satisfied. Now, one more thing I will tell you. Real is the realm of need. Okay, then imaginary is the realm of demand. And symbolic is the realm of desire. Need, demand, and desire. I imagine this like three stages in a relationship. Suppose there is a man who always demands that his wife is there. There are men like that. All three kinds of men are there. Women also, but it is easier to understand if it is men. Some men say, bring me tea, wash my clothes, do this for me, do that for me. Demands. That is the base. Some men are not, I need my wife to be with me. I need her to care for me. I need her. I need to love her. That is need. The third is desire. I don't have to explain. Got it? Now will you remember? Demand, need, demand, and desire. The split between the symbolic and the real. The character's identities are formed, but our identity is formed in relation to the other. So because of that, our self is always split. We are never ourselves. We are always defining ourselves in terms of the other. Something or the other is in our lives all the time. I want to be like that. Sometimes it might be a better looking woman or man. I want to be like that person. Sometimes it might be a better achiever. I want to be like that. Sometimes it might be richer person. I want to be like that. Sometimes it can be the teacher or mother or in our childhood especially. So the split is there in the self. Clear, everyone? Do you need a break? It has been 45 minutes. No, 1.25 hours. Short break? Okay, short break then. We will resume in, because offline class is there in 10 minutes or 8 minutes. Hurry up. 11:52. 11:52 is your time. 2 more minutes, everyone. Okay, shall we do the next question? The Center for Contemporary Culture Studies was established in Berkeley in 1960. Yeah, that's right. It was established in University of Birmingham, not Berkeley. Jürgen Habermas traces the rise of the public sphere to the rise of print culture. True. Paul Gilroy introduced the concept of Black Atlantic. True or false? True. Paul Gilroy introduced the concept of Black Atlantic. Theodore Adorno praised the alien nature of avant-garde movement, such as the atonal music of Schoenberg. Theodore Adorno, it seems it is true. But yeah. But because we know B and C, A is not true and B and C are true, then it is easy. Chutnification is the term used by Salman Rushdie. Right. Now, CCCS is the Center for Contemporary Culture Studies. It was established at the University of Birmingham as a research center. It played a critical role in developing the field of cultural studies. Right, you know that. It was established in 1964 by Richard Hogarth. He was the first director. Stuart Hall also. CCCS is known for its interdisciplinary approach. It studied subcultures, popular culture, media studies, and also the division between producers and consumers. They had a collaborative approach to research. They did not write individually. They had a collaborative approach. Breaking down traditional academic hierarchies. Got it? Any doubt there? Now, let me tell you more. Major works of the CCCS. As you know, they were collaborative. Many people together produced works. Resistance through rituals. Have you heard of that? Resistance through rituals. Youth subcultures in post-war Britain. Is an important work by CCCS. Policing the crisis. Mugging the state and law and order. The Empire Strikes Back, that was a PYQ. Border patrols. It's about heterosexuality and homosexuality. So these are major works of the CCCS together. Okay. CCCS produce these works together. Then, are you writing everything? Richard Hogarth, what is the work that he wrote? The Uses of Literacy. It is a work on working class culture and mass media, the impact of mass media on working class culture. Who wrote The Making of the English Working Class? It is E.P. Thompson. E.P. Thompson wrote The Making of the English Working Class. Did you know he wrote Whigs and Hunters, The Origin of the Black Act? This E.P. Thompson's work, 1963, even before CCCS was formed. It is about the development of working class in England. Whigs and Hunters, Origin of the Black Act, is an exploration of the Black Act and its significance in Black Act means a legal act. Richard Johnson is a very major figure of CCCS. He wrote, What is Culture Studies Anyway? It was an influential article on the nature and scope of culture studies. What is cultural studies anyway? Got it? Then what did Stuart Hall write? Everybody knows. Encoding and decoding in the television discourse. The Hard Road to Renewal is also by Stuart Hall. 1 minute. Angela McRobbie. You must have heard of Angela McRobbie. She wrote the very major works, Feminism and Youth Culture. Angela McRobbie wrote Feminism and Youth Culture. It is a work where she discusses feminism. She has written a lot about intersections of feminism and popular culture. Another book she wrote is Postmodernism and Popular Culture. A critical analysis of postmodernism it is. The aftermath of feminism. I have to add something there. Sorry. The aftermath of feminism is where she talks about post-feminism. It is there. Here she talks about post-feminism. How post-feminism impacts young women's identities and politics. She talks about a lot of terms in that context. Complexification of backlash. Backlash is related to post-feminism. Who wrote the book Backlash? Do you remember? Anybody remembers who wrote the book Backlash about post-feminism? Susan Faludi. Are you all there, online people? Susan Faludi wrote Backlash. Is there any? Oh, I have not opened your chat. Okay. Susan Faludi wrote Backlash. Backlash means feminism is defeated by itself. Society is defeating feminists. For example, what happens in Carol Churchill's Top Girls? In Carol Churchill's Top Girls, the protagonist Marlene becomes a CEO of a company. She is doing well. But Marlene has had to give up her daughter. She could not bring up her daughter. Her daughter does not even know Marlene is the mother. Why did that happen? Because she had to make that sacrifice for her career. If you are a feminist and if you are having a career, it should be by making such sacrifices, you will be defeated. That is the meaning. Society will say, are you even a mother? Society has said that to me. Yes, I am a mother. Did you call me? What do you want? Don't be defeated by all these tricks of the society. I am a mother, but a new definition of mother. I am not the old definition. This is new definition. Okay. Please learn the new definition. Write 10 times. Like this, we should deal with it. Okay. Charlotte Brunsden, you might not know. Charlotte Brunsden. She wrote about CCCS girl, sorry, theorist. She wrote about theatre, television. Screen taste, a study of soap operas and their audiences. Arey, listen to this. Listen to this. Sure. Recently I had employed a person and for a lot of salary to get my company in shape. One day this person told me, I said, something about my husband. I said about his work, he should do something. And this, something I said, I don't remember, I don't remember, it is not relevant. But this employee of mine is telling me, you should spend time with your husband. You should care for your husband. Only then he'll be able to work. Hello. I didn't say anything, but within 2 months, he was out of the company. Good riddance. I can't employ a person who thinks that a woman's primary job is to look after her husband. A husband can look after himself. My husband is not an invalid. He can look after himself. You understand? There are thousands of people who have asked me, oh, nice company you have made. How many employees you have? Oh, I see. So who's looking after your husband and child and father? To many people, I've said they look after themselves. Okay. Paul Gilroy. So, whether you're man or woman, you should understand the purpose of your life is not to look after anybody else. If needed, when somebody is ill, somebody is old, we'll look after them. That is human nature. Like you should look after a neighbor or anybody. But you can't exist so that you can look after your children first. Then you can look after your husband and parents first. And you never look after yourself. That is not possible. Right. Okay. Paul Gilroy. There ain't no black in the Union Jack. Nice name, na? In the Union Jack, that is the flag of UK, there is no black. It's a critical analysis of race and racism in black culture. Paul Gilroy. He talked about the Black Atlantic. It is an exploration of transatlantic black cultural exchange across the Atlantic Ocean in America, Europe, Africa. Everywhere, blacks are there. Beyond national boundaries. Got it? That is called Black Atlantic. Paul Willis is a very major theorist of culture studies who wrote Learning to Labor. Learning to Labor. It's a classic study of working class youth and their experiences in education and employment. Learning to Labor by Paul Willis. Okay, now easy question. Thank you, Divishri. Who is the best known figure among the following? For why I forgot to put animation in answer. Sorry so much. So sorry. Best known figure among the following for articulating the concept of negritude is Amy Césaire. Who are the 3 people in in negritude that you know? Negritude? Leopold Sédar Senghor, Amy Césaire, and Leon Damas. Leon Damas. Do you know Anna Rutherford? Anybody? Anna Rutherford. I will tell you about her. She's an Australian theorist of the journal Kuna Pipi. It is a famous post-colonial journal, Kuna Pipi. Kunapipi, the title means mother goddess in Aboriginal Australian mythology. What are the other works of Edward Said Dekho? The World, the Text and the Critic, 1983. Study the year, please. The World, the Text and the Critic. Nationalism, Colonialism and Literature. Culture and Imperialism, 1993. Culture and Imperialism is like a sequel to Orientalism. Culture and Imperialism is like a sequel to Orientalism. Got it? Now, identify the statements which are correct. The term flaneur is often associated with the poetry of Baudelaire. True or false? Flaneur. It is true. Flaneur is a very famous term associated with Baudelaire. Flaneur means wanderer in the city. A man wandering in the city. It is explained in the next slide, don't worry. The term habitus is associated with Pierre Bourdieu. True or false? True. Pierre Bourdieu is a culture studies theorist. He talked about habitus, field. Michel Foucault is associated with the concept of modernity and unfinished project. True or false? False. It is Habermas who wrote Modernity and Unfinished Project. It is Habermas who wrote Modernity and Unfinished Project. Got it? Who is flaneur? Wanderer in the city. What is habitus? I will tell you. It is all the habits and beliefs and thoughts that we have inherited, we have got from the field of work. I will explain. Who wrote Modernity and Unfinished Project? Jürgen Habermas. Franz Fanon is associated with the term imagined community. True or false? Ayyo, it is imagined community. Not Rushdie. Rushdie is imaginary homelands. Benedict Anderson. Benedict Anderson is imaginary homelands. Che. Benedict Anderson is imagined community. Imaginary homelands is Rushdie. As soon as you see imagine, don't jump and answer. This happens in the exam. Oh, I know this thing. Gone. Because you may not realize it is wrong. Think slowly, clearly, and then answer. Okay? Navina, getting me? Who coined the term thick description? Is it Clifford Metz? Clifford Metz. There is no such man. Christian Metz is there. Christian Metz is a film studies theorist. Clifford Geertz, G-E-E-R-T-Z. Clifford Geertz talked about thick description. So A and B. Got it, everybody? All right, let us look at the explanation. Flaneur is a figure of modern urban experience characterized by aimless strolling and observation of city life. Aimless scrolling and observation of city life. The flaneur. Charles Baudelaire talked about the flaneur. It is central to his work. He discussed this in an essay called The Painter of Modern Life. Charles Baudelaire wrote The Painter of Modern Life. It's an essay. What is the other work by Charles Baudelaire? Flowers of Evil, last point. Le Fleur du Mal. Baudelaire explored the complexities of modern urban life, highlighting the fragmentation and alienation of city dwellers. People in the city are like wanderers in the city. In villages, everybody knows everybody else. There is support, but in the city, there is none. Modernity has its own unique beauty, which can be found in the ephemeral and the fleeting aspects of life. That is what Baudelaire thought. Baudelaire sees the artist as a flaneur, a wanderer in the city, capturing the essence of modern life. James Joyce was like a flaneur. He depicted Stephen Daedalus as a flaneur, wanderer in the city. Got it? Everything clear so far? Oh, Marshall Berman. Okay, I don't know them. Now, Pierre Bourdieu is a French sociologist. Outline of a theory of practice. Distinction, a social critique of the judgment of taste. These are very famous. Outline of a theory of practice. Distinction, a social critique of the judgment of taste. The logic of practice. The weight of the world. Outline of a theory of practice develops a concept of habitus. Ayyo, it is wrong. I was thinking, it is correct. Logic of Practice by Pierre Bourdieu. I got confused a little bit. Is it correct? So Pierre Bourdieu talked about the concept of social suffering. Pierre Bourdieu talked about the concept of social suffering. Okay, he's a sociologist. Bourdieu's concepts that are very important for us. He focuses on how social structures and power dynamics shape our character. Individual behavior and opportunities are shaped by social structures and power dynamics. He argues that our social background and experiences influence what we do, what we think. Isn't it? Our social background, our experiences influence our preferences, tastes, opportunities. So that forms our habitus. What is field? We are in the field of English literature, a social space where individuals and groups interact, compete and struggle. In English literature, we are all struggling. We want to be professors. We want to be heard. We want to be accepted. And we are learning a lot in the process. Whatever we are learning gives us a set of dispositions, preferences, inclinations. The experience of when you do PhD, when you attend conferences, when you do a course, it will give you certain habitus. I hope you're getting it. To understand habitus, think of it as habits. Habits, preferences, inclinations. Okay. What is cultural capital? He talked about cultural capital as the non-economic assets. He talked about embodied capital, objectified capital, brain stuck. Embodied capital, objectified capital, and institutionalized capital. He talked about embodied capital. Embodied capital means what you know. I mean, your what is happening to me? Your accent, your skills. I can sing, that is embodied capital. I can speak in a native accent, that is an embodied capital. I am beautiful, can also be embodied capital. Right? Then, abilities, skills, yes, qualities. Then, embodied capital, objectified capital means the things that you possess. I have an iPhone. I have a big house. Things like that. Then institutionalized capital means I have a degree. I am the president of an association. Things like that. Social status. Right? That is institutionalized capital. Now, symbolic violence also he talked about. The ways in which dominant groups maintain power and control through subtle over unconscious forms of violence. Dominant groups maintain power through subtle and unconscious forms of violence. It is symbolic violence. For example, UGC or NTA is performing symbolic violence over you by saying you have to pass this exam in order to get a job. When you were studying, you thought you are eligible for a job. And then they're saying, no, you are not eligible. You have to pass this exam. Okay, I will pass. What is the syllabus? That we will not tell you. When will the exam be conducted? That also we will not tell you. Symbolic violence is not the same as ideological state apparatuses, but there is overlap. Okay, after I pass this exam, will I get a job? That also we cannot say. All right. So that is symbolic violence. Now, Modernity and Unfinished Project is by Jürgen Habermas. It refers to his belief Enlightenment's promise of modernity, which includes ideas like reason, equality, and freedom. Sorry. Enlightenment's promise of modernity, which includes ideals like reason. Enlightenment gives you reason, qualities like reason, isn't it? Success, progress, equality, freedom. All these are guaranteed in a modern society, isn't it? Habermas's concept of modernity as an unfinished project is not fully, Habermas says, modernity or fully realized. Clear, everybody? It is still going on and on. We are still not free. We are still not successful. Got it? Habermas argues that modernity is a project that is still ongoing, and its potential for creating a more just and rational society has not been exhausted. I copied from somewhere. That is why it is like this. Some websites. Okay. Got it? Then imagined communities. Nations are imagined communities, said Benedict Anderson. It refers to the idea that nations are socially constructed communities that exist in the minds of their members. It is in your imagination that a nation exists. Without your imagination, you don't have a nation. You have to imagine that this is my nation, my capital is this, my currency is this, my festivals are this, my history is this. Anderson argues that nations are not defined by physical boundaries or face-to-face interactions. Geographical boundaries, etc., do not matter at all. Nations are coming into being because of the collective imagination of its members. Nations are coming into being because of the collective imagination. We are all imagining. Because of that, nation is coming into being. Got it? Right. Now, thick description. Clifford Geertz talked about thick description. A detailed and contextual approach. You have to be in the context. When you describe something, you have to describe it from the context in a detailed manner. That is the meaning. Geertz argues that cultural analysis should go beyond surface level observations and instead provide a rich, contextualized description of the meanings and interpretations that underlie human actions. Don't just describe from a superficial level. Get inside. Describe from within. Look at the context and meanings and interpretations that underlie an event. Got it? In Wedding Album by Girish Karnad, Vidula is getting married to Ashwin, whom she has never met. He is abroad in the US. Vidula's brother Rohit is making a videotape. And in the videotape, in the process of making the videotape, a lot of different things happen which reveal to us the inner backstories of the family. What started as a superficial description becomes a thick description. Thick description is an ethnographic description when you are in the context, describing from within the details. Geertz wrote a famous essay, Deep Play, Notes on the Balinese Cockfight. It is very famous that he wrote about the Balinese cockfight. It is a classic example of thick description. In this essay, Geertz is describing the Balinese cockfight as more than a spectacle. He is showing the cockfight as a complex cultural practice that reveals deeper insights into Balinese culture and society. So far clear? Match the list 1 with the list 2. Easy, because 2, 3 you know easily. Bodies That Matter, you know, it is by Judith Butler. A World of Difference is by Barbara Johnson. Barbara Johnson was associated with the Yale School. A Literature of Their Own is by Elaine Showalter. Vamps and Trams is by Camille Paglia. They don't want you to know Camille Paglia. They want you to know the others who are very important. Judith Butler believes in gender as a social construct. Gender is a social construct. It is not a given thing. It is not an unchanging thing. She challenges the idea that gender is a natural or biological category. You are born with a certain sex, but not with gender. Gender is what we acquire from culture. Instead, she posits that it is a socially constructed concept. Is that clear? Founded the idea of performativity of gender. She argues that gender is not an inherent trait. Gender is not there in us, but rather a performance that is repeated and reinforced through social norms and expectations. Gender is not there in us. It is a performance that is repeated and reinforced through social norms and expectations. Clear? You are expected to grow your hair long. If you are a woman, you are expected to be thin and beautiful. You are expected to be muscular and have 6 packs, etc., etc. When you perform your gender in a certain way, you are defining gender in that way. You can perform it in another way also. Gender is not something that is inherent, but suppose you came to Trivandrum as a very traditional girl, okay? And then you acquired some, let us take the example of Navina. Navina came to Trivandrum as a very traditional girl. But going around with Aparna and Preeti, she got a lot of unconservative ideas. Imagine. And when she goes back, she is totally changed. Her parents are saying, Navina's parents are saying, what happened to you? You've cut your hair. You are wearing Western clothes. You're not supposed to do all this. You should perform your gender. You should maintain your gender expectations. And Navina is telling them, earlier I performed my gender in a certain way. Now I'm performing it in another way. My gender is not a given thing. It is not unchanging. It changes. Sex is what is maybe permanent to some extent. If you are born homosexual, you might remain homosexual. If you are born heterosexual, you might remain heterosexual. But gender is what is culturally acquired. Gender Trouble is the book that she wrote, Feminism and the Subversion of Identity. It is a foundational text that challenges traditional notions of gender and identity. Bodies That Matter. That is another book by Judith Butler. She subtitled it On the Discursive Limits of Sex. Remember, Gender Trouble, 1990. Bodies That Matter, 1993. Culture and Imperialism also was 1993. Nation and Narration also 1990, wasn't it? Bodies That Matter is an exploration of the relationship between bodies, power, and discourse. Remember Judith Butler? She talked about vulnerability, precarity also. What did guy standing in the corner write? Precariat. Identify the ones which are matched correctly. Difficult, I know, because we don't know any of these. Yeah, but Thomas Babington Macaulay only we know. This is a difficult question. Because Barbara Christian, we don't know. Alfred W. Crosby is important. Okay, I have seen his name before also. Alfred Crosby. I have not added him here. Alfred Crosby. Ecological imperialism. Correct. I should have added it in eco-criticism. Ecological imperialism. Let me go and add and come. Shall I? I was already... 1 minute. Because when I give you the PDF, it will have everything. Alfred Crosby wrote Ecological Imperialism. Paul Carter, Graham Hagen. Alfred Crosby's is Ecological Imperialism. That is famous. Thomas Babington Macaulay, they are putting along with it. That is Minutes on Indian Education. Ayyo. They expect you to know only two things. They expect you to know Alfred Crosby and Thomas Babington Macaulay. But Barbara Christian is also famous because she is an African American critic. Barbara Christian is a famous African American critic. But if you don't know, it doesn't matter. Alfred Crosby, will you remember? Barbara Christian wrote Black Feminist Criticism and also The Race for Theory. Black Feminist Criticism and The Race for Theory. Okay. The Race for Theory is a little important. Barbara Christian. Now, look at some other African American critics. Houston A. Baker Jr. Have you heard that name? Houston A. Baker. Little important. Henry Louis Gates Jr. Have you heard? You should definitely hear. He is super important. Henry Louis Gates Jr. Henry Louis Gates Jr. is very important. Henry Louis Gates Sr. is also there. That is why this guy is called Junior. What is the major work by Henry Louis Gates Jr.? You might know it. The Signifying Monkey. Henry Louis Gates Jr. wrote The Signifying Monkey, 1988, same year as Can the Subaltern Speak? Oh my God, Bell Hooks wrote so much. What are the works by Bell Hooks? Bell Hooks wrote so much. Tell, ain't I a woman? Feminism is for everybody. All these have been asked. That's why I'm writing. Teaching to transgress. One about men is there. Masculinity and love. Men, masculinity and love. Yes, yes, yes. The will to change. Will to change. That is the title. The will to change. Men, masculinity and love is the subtitle. This teaching to transgress is liberationist pedagogy, where she is teaching, and through her teaching, she is liberating the students. Liberationist pedagogy. Anna Julia Cooper, Anne Falwell Stanford, Barbara Christian, Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, Alice Walker, Roxane Gray wrote the famous collection of essays called Bad Feminist. Roxane Gray is the author of Bad Feminist. The others I myself don't know. There are more. Angela Davis. Angela Davis wrote about prisons. Angela Davis wrote about prisons. She's also Black feminist and Black critic. Are prisons obsolete? That is the thing. Are prisons obsolete? Remember, okay? These are extremely famous, these books. Now, some other African-American short writers, just randomly I made. Richard Wright, Ralph Ellison, Maya Angelou, Toni Morrison, Teju Cole, Lynn Notash, then Colson Whitehead, then Susan Laurie Parks, Amiri Baraka. I'm going to ask you questions. Amiri Baraka, Sonia Sanchez, Tozake Sheng, something I don't know how to pronounce. Barbara Smith, Alice Walker. Who among them wrote I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings? Maya Angelou. Who among them wrote Native Son? Then one more they will ask. They have always asked. James Baldwin. Who wrote Giovanni's Room? Homosexual book. That they asked in PYQ. Giovanni's Room. Somebody please check Giovanni's Room. I am sure it is. Playing in the Dark. Who wrote Playing in the Dark, Whiteness and the Literary Imagination? That is a major work by Toni Morrison. Who wrote Open City? Teju Cole. Who wrote Top Dog, Underdog? No, I knew you would say. Top Dog, Underdog. Who wrote Dutchman? Amiri Baraka. Who wrote The Underground Railroad? The Underground Railroad. It is Colson Whitehead. Underground Railroad and the Nickel Boys, Pulitzer Prize winning novels. The Underground Railroad. Next one is Nickel Boys. Sugar, what was Lynn Natasha's? Sweat, sorry, not sugar. Sweat. Freudian slip. Sweat. Yeah. Then other ones I don't know. She wrote choreo poems. Okay. Next. Arrange the following in chronological order of their year of publication. Deconstruction and Criticism. Who wrote? Same guy wrote Western Canon. Harold Bloom. You don't know these works, right? Do you know? No problem. I'll tell you. Deconstruction and Criticism is by Harold Bloom. Multiculturalism, Roots and Realities. Don't worry if you don't know. Literary Theory and the Claims of History is by Satya P. Mohanty. He was an Indian American theorist. He didn't write much. The Western Canon is by Harold Bloom again. That is important, 1994. Western Canon, 1994. An Appetite for Poetry is by Frank Kermode. Frank Kermode, usually they ask. He's a contemporary critic. For net students, the contemporary criticism section, please read. Frank Kermode. Okay, I have given you details here. Satya P. Mohanty was born in Orissa but raised in America, studied and worked there. Literary Theory and the Claims of History, Postmodernism, Objectivity and Multicultural Politics. That is his work. He's not that important, don't worry. Then Harold Bloom, very important. Here are the major works of Harold Bloom. The Visionary Company is a reading of English Romantic poetry that came in 1961. Harold Bloom is a Jew. He wrote Kabbalah and Criticism. Kabbalah is Jewish culture. Then A Map of Misreading. That is what? That is based on reader response criticism. Remember, Harold Bloom is a reader response critic. The Map of Misreading, Agon, the Anxiety of Influence, these are all reader response works. Reader response theory works. Okay? Map of Misreading. Deconstruction and Criticism is what they asked. Agon, Towards a Theory of Revisionism. What is Agon? Agon refers to the idea that literary works are engaged in a struggle or contest with their precursors. Same idea in Anxiety of Influence also. It is the same idea. Literary works are in a struggle or contest with their precursors. Influence for Harold Bloom is not a positive thing, whereas for T.S. Eliot, influence is a good thing. In Harold Bloom, we have to struggle against influence. Did you understand, Pooja? Agon is the idea of Harold Bloom, which refers to the fact that literary works are engaged in a struggle or contest with their precursors, particularly earlier literary works. This concept is central to Bloom's theory of poetic influence, like how Shelley and Keats might have struggled against Wordsworth's presence. Right. And in Anxiety of Influence, Bloom argues that poets experience anxiety when faced with the influence of earlier poets. Poets experience anxiety, leading to the struggle to create original work. I want to write original. I don't want my work to show the influence of my previous writer. The previous writer is called precursor. New writer is called FEB. The FEB is constantly struggling against the precursor because the FEB does not want to show the influence of the precursor. So what will he do? He'll do misreading. Every poem that the FEB writes, the new poet writes, will not be original. It will only have a distortion of the previous precursor's poem. Suppose I'm influenced by Sylvia Plath. Suppose I am the FEB. When I write, people ask me, oh, you like Sylvia Plath? It looks like copy of Sylvia Plath. Now I want to write an original poem that does not show the influence of Sylvia Plath. I will write, but even original poem, even that original poem is a distortion of Sylvia Plath's poem. You can only have a misreading or distortion of the precursor. You cannot have originality. If it looks like original, it is a strong misreading. If it does not look like original, it is a weak misreading. Sometimes some people don't want to be original. They will proudly, suppose your mother is giving you a sari, you and your sister are getting two saris. You cut that sari, you change it, you maybe do some embroidery or dyeing, or you make a salwar kameez out of it. Nobody will know it is the mother's sari. That is strong misreading. Your sister will wear the sari as it is, proudly realizing that this is mother's sari, that's all I have. So that is weak misreading. Now, did you understand? Now, when you distort a precursor's form, you can do it using 6 revisionary ratios. You distort a precursor's form in 6 different ways. These are called revisionary ratios. Harold Bloom used Jewish names, Hebrew names for all this. Klineman, tessera, kenosis, demonization, ascesis, and epiphrades. These are the 6 revisionary ratios. Will you look it up and read on your own also? Please. If you did not understand, you copy paste and ask AI to explain. Mostly, if you put some text, it should be correct. But you should read. Because what I am saying has an originary lack. It will disappear. Please, because they have asked it, it is previous clear question. And like me, you should be able to say all this by yourself. You should reach that stage. Klineman, tessera, ascesis, demonization, no. Klineman, tessera, kenosis, demonization, ascesis, and epiphrades. You didn't understand? If I write here, will you understand? Some of you will know, I know. Can you see? Not really, eh? Can you see, Pooja? Klineman. Without even making us epiphrades, without even making a mistake in spelling, you should learn all this. And each of these revisionary ratios is related to a figure of speech. Will you remember? These are revisionary ratios discussed by Harold Bloom. Okay. Will you remember agony? Agony refers to the idea that the FEB is in an agony because of the struggle with the precursor. The FEB is in an agony. Okay. All right. Oh, yo, this Harold Bloom wrote many more works. He wrote hundreds of works, edited and wrote. Shakespeare and the Invention of the Human is very important. I think they've already asked about it, I guess. Or How to Read and Why, that is also important. Genius, a mosaic of 100 exemplary creative minds, may not be important. I just found it today. And he was influenced by Northrop Frye. Northrop Frye wrote Anatomy of Criticism, and Harold Bloom wrote Anatomy of Influence. Anatomy of Criticism and Anatomy of Influence. Harold Bloom. Shakespeare, The Invention of the Human. When I give PDF, please read it again, okay? Right. Thank you, everyone. Now, Frank Kermode. Remember we mentioned him, don't sleep. Frank Kermode, they ask, very famous is The Sense of an Ending. Do you know there is a novel also called Sense of an Ending? Of course, you know. It is written by Julian Barnes. What is Frank Kermode writing here? He wrote Romantic Image also, early work. The Sense of an Ending, Studies in the Theory of Fiction. Okay. He explores how narratives create meaning through their beginnings, middles, and endings. Wow. He's looking at the beginning, middle, and end of narratives. How this structure influences our understanding of time and human experience. Nina, we should very carefully, we are already doing it, structure the beginning, middle, and end of our PYQ course. In the beginning, we did PYQs. We gave you time to read extra on them. I hope you did that. Then we integrated it with recap course so that you will get explanations more. In the beginning, PYQ plus explanation would have been more tedious. I hope you are managing. Are you? Slowly learning more, doing the quizzes, I hope. And in the end, ta-da-dang, model tests. If anybody is lagging, no problem. Catch up now. Do extra work, please. Frank Kermode also wrote Shakespeare's Language. Shakespeare's Language, 2000 work. Now, match the list 1 with list 2. Oh, sorry. This is not from, is it correct? No, this is from previous criticism. The slide is, I accidentally kept this slide. This is from previous. Okay. Next question. How many questions they asked from theory last exam? All this is 1 and 2, December 2024. Who is the critic? I think this answer is wrong. Did you contest this answer? I don't remember. What was the answer given? I think they gave the answer Hannah Arendt. That's wrong because the entire question is wrong. It is not Stephen Hertz. The answer given is wrong. I don't know if it is the answer. There is another man. Maybe that is what they mean. See, Steve Menz. That is what they mean, I think. Not Stephen Hertz. Hannah Arendt did not talk about blue humanities. Was this the answer given? Does anybody remember? Last exam. Previous exam. Yeah, Steve Menz it is. This was typed by the office people. Maybe they made a mistake. Is it a mistake? Anyway, it is not Hannah Arendt, for sure. I think. I think that is why they gave me like this answer one. We will correct it. Anyway, what is past is past. Okay. Now you know the answer. Steve Menz. Okay. Look at major figures in Blue Humanities. Dan Brayton or Daniel Brayton. He wrote a lot about Shakespeare and Blue Humanities. What is Blue Humanities? We did a YouTube live on Blue Humanities. Did you watch? Please watch every Tuesday. Will you watch? Every Tuesday, YouTube live is there on a research area. Last one was? Yeah, before that we did digital humanities. Okay, Blue Humanities. Dan Brayton wrote Shakespeare's Ocean. So Blue Humanities is about the relationship between human beings and oceans. Steve Menz wrote an introduction to the Blue Humanities. He also wrote Shipwreck Modernity, Ecologies of Globalization, about shipwrecks at the bottom of Shakespeare's Ocean, also by Steve Menz. Break up the Anthropocene. What is Anthropocene? Anthropocene is, it's given here. Anthropocene is the proposed geological epoch or era, the geological era that recognizes the impact of human activity on Earth's ecosystems. How human activity is interfering with nature and ecosystems. That is that era is called Anthropocene. The term suggests that human influence on the planet has become a dominant force, rivaling geological processes. Human beings are against nature and geology, and human beings have become more powerful than nature. That is called Anthropocene. Human beings have become more powerful than nature. I told you Rachel Carson wrote The Sea Around Us. That is the Blue Humanities work that she wrote. Rachel Carson, The Sea Around Us. Hester Bloom is the name of a woman. How come Blue Humanities theorist is called Bloom? I like it. Bloom, falling into ocean. The sound of falling into ocean. Hester Bloom, will you remember? Bloom, Blue Humanities. Guy Standing, Precariat. And do you know who wrote about liquid modernity? Zygmunt Bauman. You know, Preeti. Zygmunt Bauman. Liquid modernity. Zygmunt Bauman. Zygmunt. Hester Bloom. Blue Humanities. She wrote The News at the Ends of the Earth. Something titled like that, William Morris has written. The Well at the World's End. Also News from Nowhere. The View from the Masthead. Oh no. These are by Hester Bloom. Okay. Medical Humanities it is. Blue Humanities, two more people have written, Adam Nicholson and Matt Porteous. Look it up if you can, or just remember it. Hannah Arendt was a hardcore philosopher who talked about mind and ideas, and she did not talk about Blue Humanities. The origins of totalitarianism, the human condition, on violence between the past and future, life of the mind. These are major works of Hannah Arendt. They have many times asked about her. At least 3 or 4 I remember. Hannah Arendt. Okay, medical humanities, one book I saw. These are in the options that they sent, that they gave. Thomas R. Cole and Nathan Carlin. Medical humanities and introduction. Spend some time with these writers and works and get to know them better, please. Don't ignore them. Be friends with them. Thomas R. Cole and Nathan Carlin, medical humanities. Oh, dropped it was. I see. Ah, Holocaust survivor. Some nonsense they are giving in options. Huh? Okay. I hope you're not tired. It's almost 1 o'clock. Last question for the morning. Homo Caesar, I told you. Defamiliarization, who doesn't know? Viktor Shklovsky. Uncanny, Sigmund Freud. Actor network theory only you don't know, maybe. Homo Caesar, you know, Giorgio Agamben. Homo Caesar, biopolitics, remember, precarity. Homo Caesar is a man who can be killed. You know, he's beyond law. So marginal. Remember, bare life. Homo Caesar is representation of bare life. Agamben talked about bare life. There's a book called Bare Life. Okay. Okay. So what is actor network theory? It is associated with Bruno Latour, another favorite of net people. Hannah Arendt, Bruno Latour, they always ask. Bruno Latour is a sociologist, French philosopher and sociologist. He is known for his work in science and technology studies. It is in some Science and Technology Institute that he worked, and there they developed actor network theory. It is not difficult, just easy. It is a social theory that views the world as a dynamic network of interconnected actors. We are all interconnected actors, both human and non-human, where everything is in a constantly shifting state of relationship. Social, natural phenomena are all the result of complex networks of relationships. There are human beings, objects, ideas, institutions, everything together. Actor network theory. Society is a network of, and there's a silly, when you look at a simple definition, it's very silly. Who doesn't know? But of course, when you go into it deeply, it will have a lot of implications. But they don't expect you to know deeply. They in the net exam, or even PSC exam, they only want you to know the basics. Actor network theory, Bruno Latour. Okay, will you remember? He wrote a book called Laboratory Life, the social construction of scientific facts. Bruno Latour. Nina, if you are giving a test, give a correct option and a silly option, like that. Don't give tough options. It will be like, oh my God, I can't do it. Like, who wrote Laboratory Life? Bruno Latour or Rahul Dravid? Because that option itself will help them remember. Now, hybridity. Latour talked about hybridity, same as Homi Bhabha. Modern society is characterized by hybrids, which are entities that combine natural and social elements. Genetically modified organisms, climate change, these are all examples of hybridity. Critique of modernity also Latour did. He talked about modernity's emphasis on dichotomies. And also he talked about politics of nature. Politics of nature. At least we are hearing that name good now. In the exam, when they ask, you don't have to sit there and think, oh my God, is this the right question paper? Is it Some other sociology question paper, I don't know anything. That stage you will not be in, even if it is a tough one. Okay, so we will continue from here after lunch. What a surprise! After lunch, it is easy peasy, okay? Hey, did you enjoy? I brought all the PSC people here, telling them it will be useful. Was it useful? HPSC, RPSC, MPPSC, everybody, PSC. Thank you. If you look at the PDF and watch the recording, will you be able to remember? Okay, good. So have a peaceful lunch and let us resume at 2 o'clock. Every Sunday, there is PYQ course live. Audio I can't provide, I didn't record. But Debastudi, you have to choose between your main class and this. Otherwise, you should have been in the offline batch. You can't do everything. Let us be happy with what we have. Same link for post-lunch session. I will end this session. Same link you can join. I will open the same link. Okay, guys. Bye. See you soon at 2 o'clock. 3 p.m. class is there on Sunday. What do you mean? Why no recorded class? Recorded class is there now. Oh, paper one is there. You don't get access because you have another class. Your course is a different course. You understand? You can get what you get in your course. Otherwise, there will be total confusion. 2 to 3, I join. I don't know about MPPSC schedule. I will find out and let you know. Anyway, at 2 o'clock, nobody has class. You join from 2 to 3. Okay. Come at 2 o'clock. Okay, bye. By then,